Welcome to the Daily Flow. Please welcome your host, John Coleman.
Today to talk about whether it's a good idea to have a blocked column on a Kanban board. We're going to talk about the upsides and the downsides of that. Should we even have, is that a good thing to do? In this particular case, let's just imagine that we've got a workflow as in a Kanban board, and we have, say, a backlog column that's got no real limit in terms of number of ideas that are going in there. And you've got different types of work in that backlog column, for example. And let's imagine that we also have some kind of requested column, or what I call here committed but not started. So we've told someone we're going to do it, but we actually haven't done anything as of yet. There's a limit on that column of 5. And imagine then that there were 3 in progress columns, in progress 1, in progress 2, in progress 3. And there was an overall WIP limit of 10 items within those 3 in progress columns. And then after that, imagine that there's a blocked column, which is unbound. There's no limit on it. And there are actually some items in that blocked column. And after that, you've got some kind of done column saying everything's ready to go to the customer and so on. And imagine as well that there's some kind of service level expectation. It's not an agreement, it's not a guarantee, some kind of service level expectation that we will deliver when an item starts, once it goes into the committed but not started column in this case, that it will get to the done state in 10 days or less. So imagining your started point is between backlog and committed but not started, and your finished point is between blocked and done here. So what would be some upsides to having a workflow that looks like that? And is the upside worth it? Are there more downsides? So we're going to talk about. There's a few problems with this workflow, and one of them you probably noticed straight away is that if you have a work in progress limit of 10 items in the in progress 1, in progress 2, and in progress 3 columns, but you've got actually no limit on the blocked column, then essentially your work in progress isn't as limited as you think it is. Because if we were to use the metaphor of driving down a road and there are roadworks on the road, and we have to use traffic lights because half the road is knocked out with roadworks, we will be running at least half the speed, even slower than that actually, because there's going to be some kind of delay with the traffic lights as well. When we just kind of ignore the roadworks, we're all running a bit slower. And so what can happen in this case is you have a situation where there's 3, let's say there's 3 items in the block column. We put roadworks around them, potentially bringing in more traffic, more work items coming into the system. But is that really good for the system? Is it good overall for our predictability of cycle times? Not all of our work is predictable, but are we helping to improve the predictability of how long things take when we have blocked work in an unbounded column? That's one of the problems that I see with this. There's another issue as well, because on a Kanban board, typically you would have items going from left to right on the board. You might have items going up and down on the board as well, but the general flow tends to be, the typical board would show, an item moves from left to right. And so if, for example, you actually put an item into a blocked column, let's say it got blocked, I don't know, in progress 1, and you put it into the blocked column, I guess the idea is that when it gets unblocked, you kind of put it back to where it was, and it will continue with the in progress 1 work, and then we'll move on to in progress 2 and progress 3. That creates a problem from a Kanban measures point of view, because when we're measuring cycle time, how long does something take to get from the started point to the finished point? But you could have any number of started points and finished points. So you could even have a started point at the start of in progress 1 and a finished point at the end of in progress 1. Which cycle time should we measure? Is it the first time it went into in progress 1, the second time, the 10th time? How many times is it going to get blocked? And so there's a kind of a flow issue there in terms of how the work is moving. How clear is it to people, what's going on there in terms of, and what good is it doing to our measures, our flow measures? There's another issue as well in that if we have a situation where an item is blocked in, say, in progress 1 or in progress 3, if you use a blocked column, if someone's walking by and just looks at that board, they really don't know where that item is blocked. They're not getting enough signal. They'll have to ask somebody what's going on with that. So we're losing some transparency when we have a blocked column. We're essentially raising our work in progress as well, because we're, in this particular board anyway, they got a WIP limit on the in progress 1, progress 2, and progress 3, but the block column is unbound because I guess you could have a number of blocked items. You could fool yourself by saying you need to have a limit on blocked, but then, all of the items in progress could get blocked. Actually, that's theoretically possible. So we're losing transparency. We're potentially raising a work in progress. We try to reduce work in progress on purpose so that we can be more focused, so we can get some work finished. So it can be problematic for us to do it that way. I think what we need to look at here is, if something is really blocked in a column, is there an opportunity maybe to, instead of having items in a separate block column, can we be thinking about just marking it as blocked in place? And you might put a red sticky or a pink sticky on top of it, or some other kind of signal that you have on your system. I don't really mind how you can use a sticker or some kind of legend or whatever. There are some kind of good practices using pink stickies, sometimes red stickies and so on, but you can use whatever approach you like. But for me, the big advantage of actually marking work items blocked in place is I now know where they're blocked. In addition to that, if I do want to bring any more work in from, say, the committed but not started column into the in progress 1 column, yes, I do. Let's say I have 9 items in progress. I would have space for 1 more item, but maybe you might want to be looking in this case about actually unblocking items that are in progress. In other words, is there a way that we can get rid of those metaphorical roadworks so that we can all move faster and we don't have any more traffic lights stopping us, that essentially we can have free road and we can just do what we need to do? With Kanban teams in particular, when they're trying to actively manage their work, one of the typical first things you'd be doing is, can we unblock those blocked items? We can now see where they're blocked. There's another psychological factor as well. When people use a blocked column, not only are we increasing work in progress, not only are we reducing transparency, not only are we messing up the measures, not only are we losing a signal about where the work is actually blocked, a blocked column, because what you're essentially saying is things are terrible around here. It's normal for work to get blocked, so we actually made blocked a part of our process. So overall, I'm not a big fan of having a blocked column. I do want to talk about one edge case, though, where blocked might be useful. And so just imagine a situation where you had a more straightforward workflow, where you had, let's say, some backlog, some items that you needed to get done. You had some ready state where you say this work is ready to start. We've checked everything with the stakeholders. We've double checked what they need. We understand what needs to be done, that kind of thing. And often making a work item ready from those points of view is also known as full kitting. Essentially, have we lined up all our ducks? Because one of the tricks to making sure that work doesn't get blocked in your system is, if you lined up your ducks before you started, well, it probably won't get blocked straight away, kind of thing. And so there's one kind of reason that I could kind of understand, although I still wouldn't really do it myself. You could have a blocked from starting column. The dependencies aren't lined up yet. There's a whole chain of dependencies that need to be knocked out, and there's dependency 2, dependency 3, need to be done before we can even think about dependency 1, before we can even think about starting this item. So some way of indicating that while the item might be clear and it might be understood and all that kind of thing, but actually we know that as soon as we start this, it's going to get blocked because we haven't actually lined up all our ducks. It's not something that I would do. It's not something that I'm a fan of. I can just see how a reasonable person might think that might be a good idea. But I think this kind of practice is more useful for a kind of a dependency board rather than a Kanban board. So overall, I would not be a huge fan of a blocked column. It's a kind of a common thing that I see. It's one of the reasons why I got so involved in the Kanban community, because I was getting fed up of seeing boards with blocked columns. saying how crap things are around here, increasing work in progress invisibly, reducing transparency, messing up the measures, reducing signals. I can't think of many good reasons for it, apart from a situation where, from a dependency point of view, we know that if we start this item and put it into the system, it's going to have problems straight away. So maybe we need to indicate before we start, so we don't waste lots of money. Maybe we need to line up our ducks. It depends on the context, depends on what you want to do. That's the only kind of good reason that I can think of. If you've got some other suggestions as well, I'd be delighted to see those in the comments. Any questions, just let me know as well. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend and talk soon.
Got a question for us? Leave a voice message at anchor.fm/dailyflow/message and we'll feature it as well as provide you with an answer.